Well, Robert Herjavec is the co-star of the hit TV show Shark Tank and joins me now in New York City to talk about politics and small businesses. And Robert, it's great to see you. I first want to get your take on last night's presidential debate. I know you caught part of it. What did you think?
Well, I'll tell you the most positive thing about it for me was that both candidates actually mentioned cybersecurity. And in my industry, my core business is cybersecurity, and I think it's a really topical time. We're starting to see state-sponsored cyber terrorism. I think you're going to see data being used as a mass weapon. We're going to see attacks on our infrastructure, grids, control systems, towers, things like that. So the fact that even the candidates mention the word cybersecurity is great.
And that's obviously a threat we're facing, and we're also seeing that in the corporate space. Of course, the latest example being Yahoo and its data breach, which of course could put the Verizon deal in jeopardy.
Well, isn't that interesting now? Because of the data breach, does the valuation of Yahoo change? Does it go down? I guess they're going to determine that.
Well, there's an interesting op-ed actually in the Financial Times talking about how a lot of companies will just sort of blame another government for their data breach when actually, you know, it's just an excuse for lackluster security on their end. Is that a concern you're seeing?
Well,
that companies aren't prepared?
Well, companies aren't prepared for sure, you know, and the big thing, I forget who it was that said it, but there's only two types of companies, those that have been breached and those that are about to be breached. And you certainly need the protection and the scrutiny. It's no different than your house. Just because somebody could break into your house with a gun doesn't mean you shouldn't have a door and a window and all that kind of stuff and an alarm system. And so there's no excuse for companies having bad security, but if a foreign government wants to get in, it's going to be tough. And so what we always recommend is it's not about necessarily preventing a breach, it's knowing how quickly that someone's gotten into your systems.
Now, aside from cybersecurity, small businesses were a topic of conversation in last night's debate. Trump was saying how, you know, when he goes around and talks to people, small business owners complain about regulation, something he claims that Hillary Clinton wants to increase. What do small business owners tell you about regulation?
What small business owners tell us on the show is they want it easy to do business. They want to pay less taxes and they want less red tape. And I think in some ways the government's doing a good job. It's one of the best times in history to start a business. Interest rates are at an all-time low. I mean, really, the cost of money today is zero. You know, when we started our show 8 years ago, you couldn't get a loan. It was incredibly difficult. Today, it's a lot easier.
So on that note, in your view, who was the best candidate for small business?
You know, it's really challenging because Donald Trump is obviously a business guy, understands his sector, but Hillary Clinton has a great grasp and hand on all the issues. And as a business owner, you know, I want a little bit of both. I want somebody who has that business sense, but I also want somebody who has real interest and viability on the issues.
Now, while we're on the subject of last night's debate, your co-star, Mark Cuban of Shark Tank, was at the debate last night. Now, he's no fan of Donald Trump. What do you make of their feud?
It's interesting because he was a huge Donald Trump fan up until a year ago, and then something happened, and now he's a huge Hillary fan. I mean, the great thing about Mark is you always know where he stands. There's no gray area. If he loves you, he really loves you. And if he hates you for that moment, man, he really hates you.
All right, now the latest season of Shark Tank just debuted a few days ago. Give us a sense of what we can expect going forward on the show.
Yeah, 8 seasons, 3 Emmys. Everything is, we're trying to keep it fresh, we're trying to keep it exciting, and what's incredible is the businesses are getting better. On the season premiere, we had 6 sharks for the first time ever. I mean, it was hard enough to get a word in with 5 sharks, can you imagine with 6? And we're switching up some of the seats, the kind of businesses we're getting. We're becoming a platform that really invigorates a lot of businesses,
Sure.
But at the same time, we never want to lose touch with that really small business that somebody can invent in their basement and get on our show.
Well, now, throughout your tenure on the show, has your advice changed or evolved, or are you still doling out the same sort of principles that got you to where you are today?
I think that's a great thing, and why the show works so well is we are really a product of how we feel that day, how the other sharks are treating us, and the picture in front of us. So there's no standard. We keep learning about businesses and getting inspired by the entrepreneurs.
Now, you're not shooting Shark Tank again till next year, so you have some time. But in the meantime, you have a new web show that you're launching about small business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, about a year ago, I started working with a company called Deluxe, which is an incredible company. They're the people who invented checks. I mean, isn't that remarkable? Somebody invented checks 100 years ago. So in order to celebrate, instead of just doing an ad, they decided to do a documentary to really celebrate and start a movement around small business. And not, the kind of businesses we all know, but the little dry cleaner in your local town, the dog groomer, those kind of small businesses. And that's turned into a web series where we ran a contest. We had 10,000 people nominate towns from all 50 states, and Wabash, Indiana won. And we went into the town with Deluxe, gave them $500,000, work with the small businesses, and really try to reinvigorate that town because they're competing against big box retailers, and it's really tough. And so we created a web series, 8 episodes. The first one is really about the town and Deluxe and how we work with them. And then the second one is about Harry's Old Kettle Bar, Saloon, and Grill. I forget the actual name. But it's a really small business with these people who are struggling to make it, have a good business, but yet they have full-time jobs and work in a small business. And so all those kind of challenges.
All right, and where can we watch it?
It's available online at smallbusinessrevolution.org. And we're hoping that people will get inspired, and we're going to do it again and nominate the next small town that we're going to give $500,000 to.
All right, Robert Herjavec, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.